Very good afternoon to you. Welcome to Newsbeat live on Metro TV. This bulletin is also live on DSTV channel 277 coming up in the next 1 hour. Ghanaian Muslims join the rest of the world to observe Eid al-Adha festival with special congregation prayers. Meanwhile, President Akufo-Addo has assured of government's resolve to address the recent string of labor agitations as he joined the national chief imam to observe the events at the Independence Square. And on the international front, thousands of protesters in Sri Lanka stormed the residence of President Gotabaya over mismanagement of the country's economy. This and many more coming up in the next 60 minutes. Welcome to the afternoon news. Now, to our first story, President Akufo-Addo has said that his administration is working around the clock to resolve the concerns of the striking teacher unions. According to the president, of all stakeholders are in consultation to ensure that the industrial action is ended soon. He spoke at the National Eid al-Adha prayers at the Black Star Square here in Accra.
We have to make some sacrifices to afford us the space to navigate the troubled waters of the current economic difficulties. In the case of government, discretionary expenditures of ministries, departments, and agencies have been cut by 30%. The salaries of all political appointees, including myself, have been reduced by 30%. Fuel coupon allocations have been slashed by 50%. And other expenditures suspended. I am very much aware that some teacher unions have declared a strike in pursuit of a 20% cost of living allowance demand. I'm happy that yesterday the teachers were joined by other members of organized labor under the umbrella of the Trades Union Congress to sit down with government, led by the Ministers for Employment and Labor Relations and Education, to begin negotiations on this matter. I want to add my voice to the appeal by the outstanding Minister for Employment and Labor Relations, the Honorable Ignatius B. Bafouawia, Member of Parliament for Sunyani West, for the teachers to return to the classrooms pending the outcome of these negotiations, so that the education of our children, some of whom are preparing to sit their final exams, is not affected. We are in a difficult place. The world is in a difficult place. Leaders around the world, like we are doing here in Ghana, are working assiduously to resolve the fundamental challenges that have plunged the world into the current economic condition in which it finds itself.
Now, the president also urged Muslims across the country not to relent in their prayers for the unity and progress of the country, particularly in these trying times.
Today, being the 10th day of Zulhijjah, the day of sacrifice, is considered a very significant day in the Muslim world. Islam means peace and submission to the will of Allah. Let us on this day make peace with ourselves and our fellow human beings, so that we can be in conformity with the Quranic admonition, which states that, and I quote, "And hold fast all of you together to the rope of Allah, and be not divided amongst yourselves, and remember Allah's favor on you, for you were enemies one to another, but he joined your hearts together." The Quran, chapter 3, verse 103. Let us hold fast to the rope that Allah has united us with, the rope of Ghana. Only in doing so shall we achieve our aim of making Ghana great and strong.
Still on the Eid, Muslims in Ghana have been urged to embrace peace as they join the rest of the world to mark Eid al-Adha festival. Imam of the Masjid Salam at Amasaman Sonitra, Sheikh Ismail Tete, made this known on the sidelines of an Islamic prayer to climax the event. There is more in the following report.
Eid al-Adha, a festival of sacrifice, is in commemoration of Prophet Abraham's readiness to sacrifice his son to show obedience to Allah. At Amasaman Sonitra, scores of Muslims gathered to pray for peace and order among Muslims and non-Muslims in commemoration of the most important holiday of the Islamic calendar. On the sidelines of the prayer, Imam of the mosque, Sheikh Ismail Tete, urged all Muslims to emulate the peaceful and humble attributes of Prophet Muhammad, saying that such will generate a better country for all.
The Prophet Muhammad was blessed to be the one who took up that mantle and the baton from him. And in fact, his main foundation that he laid for us was the uniqueness of God, that we should worship only one God. God is not, in fact, he's only one, he's unique. And we should all assign and establish our sovereignty on him, on God. So it is expected that on this day, we should remember the trials that he went through so that we can use that as means of bearing, as a consolation for what we are also going through as believers.
Some congregants had this to say after the prayer.
Based on what he did for Abraham, when everybody thought that life has ended for the son, when everybody thought that he was going to be used for sacrifice, Allah prevailed at the last ditch end. So it gives you confidence and hope that regardless of what's happened to you, even if you are on your sick bed, even if you are at the point of breaking down, Allah will prevail. So it's a day that gives a lot of confidence and hope to every Muslim, and for you to know that in the end there will be some sort of joy and merriment. So it's about speaking from the life of Abraham and how Allah saved him and the only son at the last ditch end when he was going to be used for sacrifice.
Yeah. He has generally preached about peace and how we should embrace even the people that are not Muslims as our own. So what I'll take home from here today is to go and be peaceful with my neighbors, my friends, and be happy. Like today, with the sacrifice that we have to do today, for peace and in general, peace.
A ram was later slaughtered to mark the festival as a symbol of Abraham's willingness to sacrifice.
Now, hundreds of Muslims within the Ghana North municipality joined chief of the Fise community in the Amasaman community to observe this year's Eid al-Adha festival prayers. Chief Imam of the Ghana North municipality, Sheikh Ahmed Tijani, urged all Muslims to strengthen support to less privileged in society by imbibing the lessons from Prophet Abraham's sacrifice.
Every year, Muslims celebrate Eid al-Adha, also known as the Festival of Sacrifice, to remember Prophet Abraham's loyalty and obedience to Almighty Allah when he offered to sacrifice his son Ishmael to demonstrate his obedience. Hundreds of Muslims turned up to observe this year's Eid al-Adha festival at Amasaman community located within the Ghana North municipality of the Greater Accra region. A prayer section was led by resident Imam, who is also the chief Imam of the Ghana North municipality, Sheikh Ahmed Tijani Haruna. He also called on Muslims to continue to cultivate the habit of supporting the less privileged in the society.
The sacrifices we do is a kind of protection against the hellish abode, from all the sufferings in this world and the sufferings in the hereafter. So whoever that has abundance and refuses to do that, the Prophet said, then don't come near our praying ground. It is not for you just to enjoy the meat, but for solicitude, love, understanding, extending your kindness and your generosity to people. Ibadallah, I say this and I seek the refuge of Allah and pray for forgiveness for myself and for all listeners. May Allah grant us and elongate our lives to see more of the returns of this year.
A symbolic ram was later sacrificed to climax the occasion.
It is for us to ponder, to reflect over this issue. It's not about enjoying the meat and all that, but it is a time for us to take a lesson in this that shows that we should prefer the commands of Allah from our own heart desires.
Imam of the Ghana Police Service Superintendent Imam Hussein Abdul Rahim Hussein is urging Ghanaian Muslims to adopt the culture of generosity and kindness in line with the festival of sacrifice, where Prophet Abraham was commanded by Almighty Allah through a vision to sacrifice his son Ishmael. Imam Hussein made the statement during a sermon to climax the Eid prayer session at the Ghana Police Mosque in Accra.
Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam dreamed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wished for him to sacrifice his son Ismail alayhi salam. Fearing it was a trick from shaitan, he dismissed it. He dismissed the dream until the command of Allah came again. From his recurring dream, Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam knew that this was a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As an obedient servant of Allah, Ibrahim took his son Ismail to the Mount of Arafat with a knife and rope in preparation for the sacrifice. He told young Ismail of his intention, but when he raised the knife, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intervened and spoke to Ibrahim. He was not to sacrifice his son, for this has merely been a test or a test of his faith, devotion and submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam stepped out of Mecca, hundreds of believers planted have already gone to Medina. Brothers and sisters in Islam, again, this is Ali, who has decided just to sway the non-believers and has sacrificed himself, ready to die for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What is it there? What is it? An important guideline, brothers and sisters in Islam. Let us take note of this. The ability to perform sacrifices varies from person to person. Even the companion Umar radiallahu anhu could not compete with Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. This happened when he donated half of his wealth, only to find out that Abu Bakr had donated all of his wealth, as mentioned in Hadith. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us all.
Now, many Ghanaians have been complaining lately of hardship in the country. This follows increasing food prices being witnessed in parts of the country, rightly caused by uncontrollable posture of inflation measures. Consequently, the district chief executive for Elembele, Kwesi Bonzo, like many government officials, emphasized that these challenges have been caused by the Russian-Ukraine war. He therefore calls on the Muslim community in the country celebrating Eid al-Adha to intercede for Ghana. He was addressing congregants at the Kambuli in Elembele district at this year's Eid al-Adha.
Society ubia Ghana ni bi won say ne koso e wo Ukraine ne Russia ntem na ma ahochire dodo a sisi a eya mene e wo Ghana hanu ma bekan say petrol bo a e koso esan say energy and oil producing countries no problem na Russia dey abent no ama affect them the ama supply no e wo form and demand no was and ama petrol bo no so na echo. A bass answer high sick as message no na how the ekufo about force depreciation. Until we share in all angles now, it affects us in a very negative way. Until we pray that they should pray for peace in the nation and across the globe, so that we can also have our economic progress as and prosperity as a country.
So we are all aware Muslims across the globe are today observing the Eid al-Adha festival. This, it also coincides with the holy pilgrimage to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Let's cross over to Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where Imam Abbas Abdul Karim is participating in this year's edition. Imam, how are the rituals going, and how has the COVID-19 affected this year's pilgrimage? Kindly unmute for me, please. Kindly
Hello,
yes, I
thank
can
you
hear you
very
now.
much. Thank you very much, and welcome to Mina, the city of the tent. Here, there are no houses. All the pilgrims are living in tents. Now, our journey began 3 days ago when all pilgrims left Mecca for Mina. In all, we have about 3,069 Ghanaians here. Now, all the Ghanaian contingent are now housed under tents. If I turn my camera, for instance, you would see these are Ghanaians lying in their own tents. Yeah, just to give you a picture of what is happening here in Mina. Now, basically, we are here to spend about 6 days. Now, almost in the third day. The first day, which is the 8th of the month of Hajj, all pilgrims are expected to sleep or to pass over the night here in Mina. So that was on Thursday. On Friday, all the pilgrims were moved to Mountain Arafat. Mountain Arafat is the creme, that day is the creme de la creme of the day of Hajj. Now, you move after sunrise and you are expected to be on the mountain or around the demarcations called Arafah for almost all day. Now, that one has been done yesterday, Friday. And now, after sunset, all the pilgrims were moved to another open place called Muzdalifah. They passed the night there, and early this morning, all of us moved for the first day of the stone throwing, called Jamarat. Now, today is very significant in the life of every pilgrim. I want to give you a summary of what is happening here.
Okay.
Today is a very significant day in the life of every pilgrim. 4 activities are done today. First is the stone throwing. And secondly, if you see my hair, see that everything is gone. I've completely shaved. All pilgrims will now completely shave. Now the third thing is to slaughter and give sacrifice, just as it's been done at home. And then the last thing for the day is to go to Mecca to circumambulate around the Kaaba for what we call Tawaf al-Ifada, which is very important pillar of Hajj. Now, after today, we are to spend either 2 or 3 days here. Now, these 3 days, the Prophet said, they are ayyamul akli wa shurb. We are to continue with the stone throwing and also to feast. So you can see that Ghanaians are really enjoying themselves here, feasting. So by the third day, which is Monday or Tuesday, we would go back to Mecca, and Hajj is now complete. Then it's the waiting period for departure back home, during which pilgrims shop for their families and friends. So far, this is what is happening here.
Let me come in, please. When are the pilgrims expected to climax this year's Hajj?
Yeah, I'm told the first flight to Tamale is around 16th of July. And then the last flight, which will disembark in which will land in Accra, would also be on the 25th of July. So within that space of 1 week, all the 3,069 pilgrims, yes. I have noticed all over and realized that we do not have major casualties in terms, but there are aged pilgrims who were given special attention. For instance, when we were leaving Arafah to Muzdalifah yesterday, the aged ones were given special buses to bring them to their tent so that from the tent they can go and do the stone throwing. For the first time in my life, I have been coming to Hajj for the past decade. For the first time in my lifetime, I have seen buses conveying people from Muzdalifah and then to Mina.
Thank you.
To Mina. And but with Jamarat, you have to walk.
Thank
for
you.
the stone
Thank you,
throwing.
Imam Abbas, for that detailed coverage of what's happening in Saudi Arabia. Let's move on to more stories as the annual Feast of Sacrifice, Eid Adha, of Muslims around commences. The Western economic conditions in Ghana has resulted in a sharp rise in the cost of livestock, creating uncertainties amongst traders. The problem has further been aggravated by the continuous depreciation of the cedi against the major foreign currencies. Abdullah Mohammed visited some major livestock markets and came through with this report.
The celebration is to commemorate the obedience of Prophet Abraham to Almighty Allah when he was ordered to sacrifice his son Ismail. One of the major highlights of the Eid al-Adha festivities is the sacrifice of an animal to Almighty Allah. Today we happen to be at the Neoplan Sheep Market to find out how traders and prospective buyers of animals are faring amidst turbulent economic conditions. During this celebration, Muslims are expected to sacrifice an animal with their meat shared to family members, friends, and the needy in society.
Buy the animals from Burkina, and now the saver, if you take like 100,000 Ghana cedis, you change saver, you have to fall. Your money will lose before you go and buy the animals. Like this one, 3,000. The red one, you see that one. And this white one, last year, 1,002. This year, 1,008. This one like this. Last year, we sell this one, 1,004, 1,005. But this year, this one, 2,500 because of the safer.
This is another mini livestock market located at Nima, precisely next to the Nima Gata. And I have Dawood here to take me through the type of animals he has here and the pricing and how prospective buyers are coming in to get some of the animals for their festive season.
A whole lot of different cows over here. This one here, yes, it's a good alley. 140 million. At first, our prices wasn't this high. Because of our economy, things has changed totally because we can buy medicine for them. First of all, our medicine it's not costing, but nowadays, even one medicine stuff is very high.
Prospective buyers have had to bear the brunt of astronomical increase in prices of animals.
Honestly, I've been here since afternoon because I've been trying to get what I can afford and going through whatever. The moment you get to those up there, they are requesting for 3,000 plus for a sheep, which is mind-boggling. Honestly, which is mind-boggling. 3,000 plus for a sheep, 2,000 plus. Honestly, we couldn't afford it, so we had to wait until the market seems like it's going down so that we can also have what we can afford.
The dealers, on the other hand, have attributed the situation to the continuous depreciation of the Ghanaian cedi and general economic hardship.
For our business have been good. People have been coming, but when we mention the price, they just say they are going, they will come back. we don't see them. So far, we only have 7 cows, but the rest, we still have some in the house.
The situation is also having a negative impact here at Nima Market, where sales have drastically dwindled.
Abanye bibi abanye dey so soro no ye bibi no tin your maso na ye bre we 500,000 any person dey bet back to we 500,000 na who do go adem na me say na bechi when ka ukura we nya kura we 15 cedis anwa dey first na no bo onye dey an ene ku 4 gallon say ku 4 gallon 4.5.
For now, it appears government may have to intervene and address the concerns by the traders before the 3-day Eid al-Adha festival comes to an end.
Well, we are going for a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll do more stories. Welcome back from that commercial break. Now, away from all other stories, President Akufo-Addo has urged academic institutions to research into critical developmental issues for the socio-economic transformation of the country. He made the call in a speech read on his behalf by the Minister of Environment at the second edition of the annual Applied Research Conference of Technical Universities.
Address on behalf of the President at the second annual Applied Research Conference of Technical Universities in Ghana held at the Accra Technical University, the Minister of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, Dr. Kwekwe Friye, said COVID-19 had necessitated the need for countries to develop modern technologies and innovations to address issues confronting them. He urged academic institutions to invest in problem-solving research.
You were set up for certain things, and in times like this, to rescue us in terms of these technical and technological needs, your researches should be geared towards national development, and they should be felt in times of national needs like we find ourselves now. And I must make contribution to you that, in fact, as far as innovation is concerned, you made a huge contribution during the COVID times. We are not out of it yet, but empirically speaking, I believe that we are out of it.
The theme of the event, Sustainable Technologies, Innovations and Entrepreneurial Development, on the part of the Vice-Chancellor of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Professor Rita Akosua-Dickson, is vital in Ghana's attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals.
We believe that such a platform will create the needed space for researchers to share research findings, form new or strengthen existing research and knowledge transfer networks, make new and also strengthen existing friendships, and also work together to develop new chapters in applied research towards the fight against poverty.
The Vice-Chancellor of the Accra Technical University, Professor Samuel Ni Odai, also encouraged researchers to keep working and hopefully have a breakthrough. He also hinted that the school has instituted a fund to assist researchers with their works.
Let this culture of research, exhibition of our innovative ideas be with us. That is the only way we can become significant. Our link with industry is critical also at this point. In Accra Technical University, we have added what we call ATU Research and Innovation Fund, which is supposed to help faculty team up with industry. We give you seed money, team up with industry, and come up with innovative ideas, which may eventually lead.
Away from that, Member of Parliament for Yendi constituency, Alhaji Farouk Aliyu Mahama, has empowered over 500 women with farm inputs and training in 6 Eastern Corridor constituencies of the northern region. According to him, this is purposely to whip up the interest of women in agriculture.
Has been a major and important player in the economic development of Ghana. According to reports, over 60% of Ghana's population is engaged in agriculture, either for survival or for economic reasons. Although women are heavily engaged in agriculture, their activities are of concern because they usually work manually On the back of this, the Member of Parliament for Yendi constituency, Alhaji Farouk Aliu Mahama, through his NGO Partnership for Poverty Reduction, has supported over 500 women from about 6 constituencies of the northern region. These include Gushegu, Bimbila, Karaga, Walinsi, Bandai, and Yendi constituencies. The over 500 women were given knapsack sprayer machines, cutlasses, pesticides and weedicides, fertilizers, and Wellington boots.
It's just a tip of the iceberg. Very soon we are going to build a warehouse, a model warehouse on East Corridor, which is a PR warehouse, which we are going to store farm goods and try to export to generate revenues for the.
The NDMP also added that he's going to seek international support for development of the constituency, saying that political leadership is about connections.
We are going again with the constituency chairman to India and the CEO. We are going to bring agri mechanization into Yendi, and skills development is going to be critical in the next 2 years of my administration. Having been a visitor to the United Arab Emirates,
the beneficiaries, who could not hide their happiness, thanked the MP for always walking his talk.
Or a buyer, a soybeans buyer, and it means a lot to me in the constituency. It is going to help the farmers to have a more produce, or it is going to support them in many ways. I've done well for all the women. Yendi only. It's Yendi constituency, including Saboba, so many places and villages at Yendi. They've done a lot of the women here. The first time he's doing it for the men, and this time he comes for the women.
The MP has assured of empowering more women in the whole of the northern region and beyond.
The Public Service Workers Union of TUC have added their voice to the calls for the 20% conditions of service allowance. According to the national chairman of the 65 public institutions, Ken Trinebua-Kodia, government has 7 days to respond to their demands, else risk another strike.
Aggrieved management committee executives of the 65 entities converged in Accra to determine their next line of action following complaints from their members on prevailing harsh economic conditions. The union has decided to put to vote a motion on whether or not to lay down their tools as a result of the situation. The 65 public sector institutions, after deliberations, settled on a 20% cost of living allowance from the government. Chairman of the Public Service Workers Union, Trinebua-Kodia, says government has 7 days to respond to their demands, else be responsible for another strike action featuring over 20,000 public workers.
5 public institutions, and they are here with all the regional chairmen, and what they say is what we have to do as leaders. So we have given government, from Tuesday 7 days per the law to do the needful.
General Secretary of the Union, Bernard J, says the high cost of living and inflation has made life unbearable for public service workers across the country.
The plight of workers due to the economic challenges that are from increasing prices of food, increasing fuel prices, and general cost of living, the erosions in their salaries due to inflation, and have decided that government should grant the COLA as requested in the letter that was subsequently submitted to.
President Akufo-Addo has charged the newly sworn-in board members of the National Labour Commission to effectively engage organized labor in order to promote peace on the industrial front. He acknowledged the challenging economic times and charged the team to be tactful in their dealings to encourage investment.
The National Labour Commission exists to settle industrial disputes and investigate labour-related complaints. At the swearing-in of its board members on Friday, President Akufo-Addo encouraged them to resolve issues with organised labour amicably in order to make the economic climate favourable for investors.
I'm expecting that we will continue the tradition of effective engagements that the Commission has already established and help promote industrial peace in our country. Industrial peace is one of the key, and harmony are one of the key elements of a viable and attractive investment climate And that should be a concern of all of us, how to position our country in such a way as to attract investment, domestic as well as foreign. And it's best achieved when we see that the labor front is calm and it is working. We have a big responsibility. As I say, the circumstances in which we find ourselves in the country has, if anything, heightened the responsibilities that are on your shoulders. But there's good reason why you've been chosen.
A member of the board, Weska Karianan, spoke on behalf of her colleagues with a pledge to ensure calm on the labor front.
The question on the lips of many in relation to these labor agitations and the demand for a 20% cost in living allowances in the pay rise, even if it's had the financial muscle to do so at this point in time. What should the conversation with the labor unions be like? We have been joined on Zoom by Chartered Financial Economics and lecturer of the University of Education, Winneba. And welcome to Newsbeat on Metro TV. Now, Ghana has finally turned to the IMF for a bailout. This notwithstanding, there is agitation on the labor front and demands for the 20% cost of living allowance. Would you describe these calls during the dire economic state of the country, the states that the country finds itself? How would you describe this dire strike? Can you hear me? If you can hear me, kindly unmute for me.
Yeah, is it better now?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, good afternoon to your cherished listeners. The question is whether it is justified for the workers to demand increases in their COLA. I believe, given what kind of economic crisis that we're experiencing now, cost of living has actually shot up beyond reasonable levels. And I think that a demand at this point by the workers is not out of place, and it's something that every rational economic agent will actually act for, especially when salaries and these COLAs are determined, these COLA arrangements are determined based on the current inflationary dispensation and all that. And so I think it's a fair call if they demand for some salary increases in respect to their COLA. So I think it's a fair call.
Now, how should conversation with these labor unions be like to prevent others from joining the strike?
I think it is difficult to prevent others from joining the strike because we are all experiencing that hardship. We are all experiencing that instability in the economy. The inflation is just outrageous. But at this point, I believe we are building a nation. So what we need to do as all stakeholders is to be truthful and transparent as much as possible. Now, most of these labor agitations are usually influenced by previous experiences. And if current agitations or people expressing for increase in demand for COLA or rise in pay are supposed to trust and come to the table with some sort of means to compromise, it gladly depends on what they have experienced in the past. So if both the negotiators and then those negotiating and the negotiators are ready to be transparent and ready to implement it and then soften their grounds, they should be able to push us forward and make a headway. But I think that the timing would require that the current demands might not be fully met, but some way, somehow, government might find a way of trying to cushion them a little bit because the hardship is really real and it's really having a toll on workers.
Thank you very much for joining us. We have been speaking to Ba Ayikusi, who is a Chartered Financial Economics and lecturer at the University of Education, Winneba. We have been talking about the labor union strike. Now, moving on, a human resource professional with Petroleum Commission of Ghana, Edward Appiah Bafo, has called on government to add critical thinking in the country's educational curriculum. This, according to him, will help students compete better.
The 11th graduation ceremony of the International Community College saw students graduating preschool, primary and secondary school. Speaking as the guest speaker for the occasion, human resource professional at the Petroleum Commission Ghana, Edward Appiah Bafo, while encouraging students to embrace and become abreast with ICT for development, also called on teachers and parents to introduce their words to critical thinking. This, according to him, will better equip them.
Critical thinking starts from home.
So parents should not depend solely on the institutions and teachers of schools where their children are attending, to be the main pace setters of critical thinking. They have to start from home at the time of eating, at the time of reading, studying. When the children come back from school, they must make sure that everything that they do within the home have a critical thinking element embedded in that. And I think that will help the children a lot.
Eva Asamoah is the head of administration at the International Community College.
We've gotten to an age where we are not just looking at students who are good in grading, as in subjects, getting A's in science, maths, but we are looking, the world is becoming so challenging and so complex. So we are looking out for young individuals who can think deep, who can foresee the problems that have surrounded us, and even make a move when everybody is so unaware of what to do. So that is why we are trying to inculcate in them the sense of thinking deep, the sense of taking their time to think critically about issues. And anytime you do so, there's a lot that comes out. You can get innovations coming out, you can get creativity coming out. It is all born out of critical thinking.
Some graduates spoke to Metro News.
I've been in ICC for a long time, like approximately 10 years, and then graduating like the IGCSE class, I feel wonderful to kind of complete the school. So it's left with A-levels though, but I feel fantastic writing my IGCSEs and graduating today.
The 11th graduation ceremony was aimed at fostering academic excellence through critical thinking.
Now, as part of measures to provide shelter for marginalized and homeless children on the streets and to eliminate all forms of violence against women and girls in the public and private spheres, the United Nations Association of Ghana Commission for Women and Children Affairs has launched a shelter project as well as sworn in patrons and goodwill ambassadors to achieve that aim. There is more in the following report by my colleague Rosemary Koko Ayingba.
Shelter is one of the most basic human needs as it serves as a survival mechanism in times of crisis or displacement. It can have a profound impact on the happiness, lifestyle, self-esteem, and productivity of an individual. Yet, the delivery of an adequate shelter to urban dwellers has been a considerable challenge for national governments in many developing countries. It is on this background that the United Nations Association of Ghana Commission for Women and Children Affairs, UNACWCA, launched a 500 capacity shelter project to rid the streets of homeless and deprived women and children. Speaking at the launch, the national head of UNACWCA said the organization is not only seeking to give beneficiaries shelter, but to empower them to also contribute to the socio-economic development of the country.
We're not just taking children off the streets or girls off the streets, we're also training them. The shelter project comes with a vocational training facility, it comes with a school, early childhood development center, a hospital. So we just want to take them off the streets, train them, give them a vocation, establish them in life. Yes, and then we take it up from there.
The guest speaker, Dr. Patrick Akwa, encouraged all to unite to bring an end to gender inequalities.
I encourage you to ride the wave of energy that has come from talking about inequalities in its most overt and pervasive forms. Let us work together to take off the blinders which showed all the forms of gender inequalities from seeing the public light.
The patrons and goodwill ambassadors of the initiative shared their views with Metro News.
We look forward to drawing on our expertise, experiences, collective and shared synergies to effectively discharge the responsibilities that come with this honor.
We call on you to help us rid our streets of homelessness and of deprived women and children who are always at the mercy of the weather, living and surviving on the streets. Through your kind donation, we believe this gesture will go a long way to save and preserve lives and dignity of children and women with housing needs.
The project, which will be sited in Accra and Kumasi, is expected to be completed within 24 months. The event was on the theme Women Empowerment, economic driver for the next generation. Reporting for Metro News, Rosemary Anyengba, Accra.
Here you go, officially the shelter project.
Business news is up next. Now, the East Legon branch of Mawako Fast Food is set to be reopened following allegations of food poisoning. According to a statement from the Food and Drugs Authority, the decision follows the verification and inspection of the facility to ascertain the level of implementation of corrective prevention actions. Public Relations Officer of Mawako Fast Food, Mohammed Amin Lamte, says preventive measures have been put in place to ensure the incidents do not reoccur.
Served contaminated food, resulting in food poisoning.
But because we were very naive, we were more or less like novices to the issue, because we've never got into any situation with the FDA. We knew FDA to be the authority that they always come to our facility to inspect the facility and make sure we do the right thing. We've never got into such a situation that became like a tug of war. It was the friction was really quite a bit, disturbing. But at the end of the day, we've got to the point that we realize that FDA has been good to Mawako. Right. Because when we went through the training, management were taught how to understand what is food safety management. We were taught how to organize ourselves in terms of the relationship between Mawako and our suppliers. Anything that comes to Mawako, we need to scrutinize it. When it gets to the kitchen staff must also try to scrutinize it. Before you even start preparing the food, we must go through certain processes. All these things were taught to our management and staff by FDA. So we were super excited that even though it was a disturbing situation, but FDA turned it to become a very good thing. There was no any sharp contrast. What we said from the beginning, we've admitted that indeed something did happen. Because the customers who came to actually bought our food, all of them, they have evidence to show that they bought food from us. We visited some of them. We've even visited some of them at the hospital. Some we have to go to their homes. Some of them agree with us that, look, they need nothing from us. They can take care of themselves. Some of them, we supported them with their hospital bills and all that. Even as we speak now, we're still communicating with some of them. So admittedly, something did happen. And that is why FDA, for the past 2 months, they have to take us through the process.
Still on business news, the agri sector grew by 5.6% in the first quarter of 2022. Even with that, the subsector has not been able to meet up with the local demand for food crops across the country.
Agriculture is one of the important contributors to the country's export earnings and a major source of income for a majority of the population in the country. Rice is one of the major food staples. However, due to the increased domestic consumption, which is exceeding the domestic production, Ghana imports 66% of rice consumed. Hence, the economic cost of depending on imported rice is high and on the rise. Other major cash crops of the country include cocoa, oil, pineapple, tomatoes, and fresh vegetables. As the country is emerging with a large number of middle-class income families, the number of consumers demanding high-quality fruits and vegetables is increasing in the country. It is estimated that the domestic vegetable market in the country is growing at 10% per year. Tomatoes, onion, and pepper are the most important vegetables in the country. The demand for fresh fruits, such as pineapples, is very high, with mostly intended for export, traditional domestic markets, supermarkets, and fruit processing. There is also a growing demand for fresh fruits for processing and juice for both local consumption and exports. In 2018 and 2019, Ghana's agriculture output grew, driven largely by government policy and expenditure. According to the Ghana Statistical Service, in the third quarter of 2019, agriculture grew by 5.5% year-over-year, outpacing the same year's general non-oil GDP growth. Industrialization and productivity improvement programs are expected to increase the output of the agriculture sector, create jobs, and encourage greater participation by the private sector.
We're going for another break. Do stay. Welcome back. Now let's do entertainment stories. Former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Aaron Michael Quay, is peeved about the way Twi language is used as voiceovers in promoting foreign content on the Ghanaian television and is calling for a stop to it. The rising concern about the denigration of local languages has taken center stage once again, this time coming from former Speaker of Parliament, Professor Aaron Michael Quay. The statesman is peeved about the way the Twi language is used as voiceovers to promote foreign content on Ghanaian televisions. According to him, it does not augur well for the culture and leaves him worried about the way the foreign values are promoted at the expense of the local ones. I beg our actors and scriptwriters to come out with Ghanaian films. I get sick anytime I hear Twi words or Gan words push through some European and Asian lips. The practice should be stopped if we should develop as a people, he said. He made these comments at the inaugural memorial lecture of Ochiniheba Dr. Jones Akwesi Amuakwata Oforiata at the University of Ghana. Professor Okwei believes the Ghanaian entertainment industry is giving too much mileage to European and Asian content, which leaves him wondering what may be left of the indigenous assets. These are the things that unmake a nation. It can never happen in Malaysia. It can never happen in India. It can never happen in any of the Asian countries, he added. He wants producers in the film industry to make a conscious effort to develop homegrown content to propagate the values of society. Now that's it for entertainment news. Let's do some international news. Now, thousands of protesters have stormed President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's residence in the capital of Sri Lanka. Demonstrators from all over the country marched to Colombo demanding his resignation after months of protests over mismanagement of the country's economic crisis. Reports say he has already been moved to a safer location. The country is suffering rampant inflation and is struggling to import food, fuel, and medicine. That's it for the news at Metro TV with me, Harriet Addy. Do have a great day and enjoy the rest of our programs. Have a good day.